SoFloRadio.com and SoFloTelevision.com. Since the dawn of civilization, the elusive quest in pursuit of the perfect drink continues to evolve. Now more than ever, we reap the rewards of this passion. The perfect vintage, the finest brew, or a spirit of optimum age and class. And now, SoFloRadio.com invites you to discover the wonderful world of booze by the glass.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to By the Glass. I'm your host, Brett Hubbard, and I'm welcoming you to explore the wonderful world of wine, beer, spirits, and everything in between. I'm joined by my guest host. Well, Jason's not here again, but he'll be on his way.
We'll pretend it's Dio.
And in his defense, traffic's just been a nightmare today, so everywhere I've been trying to go. But I do have Dio in the studio.
Hello.
And then the wonderful Crazy Ivan Bad on the board over
Yes,
here.
I am.
And then, of course, our wonderful guest, Mr. Michael Braun, Market Wine Manager for Total Wine. Thanks so much for coming and joining us. How do you like the new studio, Michael?
It looks pretty nice.
This
so
is
far.
like
I haven't seen it all yet.
SNL. Has he been here 5 times? Because we
Yeah.
start a 5-timers club because you get to start it.
Well, he's our resident fine wine expert. I always like to bring in people that do residencies for certain categories that we go over. And, of course, Michael, being an educator for Total Wine and the Market Wine Manager, he is our perfect fine wine expert. And we're so lucky to have him due to our connections through Ed and the whole Total Wine relationship. You know, it's a fantastic one. And
Cognac!
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have some incredible stuff, and George is alluding to. Tonight we're pouring 3 wines
Spoiler
and
alert.
2 different fine spirits because it is our Father's Day show. I mean, it's a wonderful show because fathers are so important. George is the father. He's the only one in the room.
Michael?
Are you a Michael?
Oh,
Yeah. No.
absolutely.
You are?
Yeah.
Michael's a father.
My favorite day of the year.
There you go. So it's a wonderful day. And anyway, welcome and say hello to everybody, Michael.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back here. It's always a lot of fun to come to the show.
Yeah.
It's educational for me as well, so I enjoy
Great.
talking to you guys, and I hope the people out there listening enjoy the show. And we do have some really nice, manly kinds of products today.
Oh, it's awesome. Yes, I won't let you discuss them, but how did we come up with some of these products as we ramble them off and tell everybody about them? Kind of give us an idea of how and why you feel these are great Father's Day gifts.
Well, we have a little Father's Day gift end cap in the store, so we pulled some things that were featured on that end cap. But you know, it's big, full-bodied red wines for guys that like to have a steak for dinner and drink a good bottle of wine, and then after dinner maybe they want to have a nice single malt Scotch or a cognac and a nice cigar.
That's
kick
me.
back and
I like
be
all
a
of
guy
those
for a
things.
night.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be a guy
Yeah.
for a night.
It is very manly, very guy-oriented to do those
We could have
types of
stopped
things.
at the steak and cigar, but yeah, let's put some wine in there.
And some spirits.
Cognac.
And some wonderful spirits. Fantastic. So let's get into the lineup for everybody at home, make their mouth water a little bit, do the rundown if you don't mind.
Okay, so we're going to start with a Napa Valley Chateau Chevalier Cab from the fantastic 2007 vintage. And we'll talk a little bit in more detail about that wine when we get to it. We're going to follow that up with... Oh, actually, no, we're going to start with...
We're going to start with the
We're
Chateauneuf
going to
du
start with the
Pape.
Chateauneuf du Pape because actually it's a young Chateauneuf. It's 2010. It's a little bit lighter than it's going to be as it fleshes out over the year. So we're going to start there. You know, great legacy, tremendous tradition, and we'll talk a little bit about that particular producer.
Fantastic.
Then we'll do the what did we say we're going to do?
It was the
next?
big cab, the
Chateau
Chevalier.
Chevalier, right? The Napa Cab from the 07 vintage, and then we'll follow that up with an absolutely killer Brunello from again the 07 vintage in
Make your
Tuscany.
mouth pucker.
So, and then a beautiful
What did you call me?
18-year oh, honey. Yeah, you'll fuck her up for this.
told me you wouldn't call me
18-year
that
single
anymore.
malt.
Yeah, the big single malt we got coming up.
And then we'll
Excellent.
finish with a gorgeous XO cognac. So I don't know what could be better for
Fantastic.
Father's Day
This
than
is
that
great.
lineup.
I'm having my Father's Day right here. I'm not even a father, but I feel like one.
You might be without knowing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right. So it's wonderful to really embrace all these great spirits and wines because they do embody, I think, the side of beverage that we all love. This is By the Glass, by the way. We're a show about beverage culture. We come to you every Thursday at 6 on SoFlo Radio and ByTheGlassShow.com. And my wife tells me, you got to say that you're on Twitter more and that you're on Facebook so that people follow you. So it's at By the Glass Show on Twitter and, of course, Brett By the Glass on Facebook. And we have a By the Glass Show on Facebook.
Don't forget your
too.
Instagram, Brett Hubbard. Where you
Instagram,
post
yeah.
cool
So
pictures.
I do post some cool pictures, and we have some. Fun
I
stuff.
follow your wife.
Into the grocery store and into
Oh, not on Instagram. Yeah,
to work.
I follow her. Stockity stock.
Fantastic. So why don't you break out some glasses and we'll bust open this wonderful Chateauneuf du Pape. Now, talk a little bit about the Chateauneuf du Pape, the region of the Rhone Valley, southeastern France, how that differs from different varietals, and how they differ from Bordeaux and maybe from a little bit further north in the Burgundy region. Is this a Grenache forward? Chateauneuf?
It is a Grenache forward Chateauneuf, as that is the principal grape in most of them. So this region is the northernmost part of the southern part of the Rhone Valley,
Right.
and it's probably the most famous appellation in the southern Rhone.
Beautiful.
It became really prominent and famous because back in the 1300s, the Pope decided to move his residency, the papacy, from Rome to Avignon. And when the Pope came, so came the money.
And he's the new Pope, the new house.
And it really changed life in that region. So originally, there's a secret recipe that was created for the Pope, which included up to 13 varietals. The laws have changed back and forth a little bit. They dropped them to 10 allowable varietals and then back up to as many as 16. Gets a little complicated because they discovered some clones that were both white and pink varietals, so
Right.
they included both of them. So now you can have as many as 16, but principally we're looking at Grenache, followed by Syrah, Mourvedre, and then the collaboration of all the other possible 13 grapes, mostly Cinsault. So
One of the reasons I love Chateauneuf du Pape so much is because of this. The Syrah tends to be very jammy in its nature. It's almost like opening a jar of Smuckers and sticking your nose in there. Real bright fruits. But then the Grenache is very overwhelmingly spicy. So they really are dynamic and well balanced in the way that they're pronounced. And then the thing is that you can really. The winemaker itself, even though it's in appellational control and they have to do certain things to certain standards, they can be, they can actually, change the mix up a little bit and from time, right?
yeah, there's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
So if there's a particular varietal that does exceptionally well in a particular vintage, they'll put more of that in if they have it available to them. So there is flexibility, and balance and harmony is really what it's all about. But you always know when you're drinking Chateauneuf du Pape
Yeah.
because you get those scents of flowers,
Yeah.
followed by roasted meats and gamey notes to them, and then a luxurious sort of texture on the mouth because there's not a lot of tannin in Chateauneuf du Pape.
Right. Now, would you say this is one of the brightest and most similar to almost a New World-ish from the Old World because of the brightness of the fruit that comes out of it, as far as French wines go, anyway? And the lack of tannin per se would make this one of the brighter and more approachable for people, let's say, on Father's Day, getting this as a gift.
Absolutely. Grenache-based wines are far more approachable than Cabernet-based wines. It's a relatively low-acid grape, and they tend to age these wines in gigantic foudre, big barrels, so there's not a lot of oak flavors generally in Chateauneuf du Pape. So again, balance, harmony, fruit, nice velvety textures, a beautiful long finish. And then these are very long-lived wines, can be, 15, 20 years. But we're drinking a 2010 great vintage, fantastic producer. And this is made by a guy named Alexander Favre, who is the family's been
like the football player.
Yeah, exactly. They've been there since the mid 1800s, so I think they've learned a few things and know what they're doing at this point. And of course, depending on where you are in Chateauneuf, you've got these gigantic stones called galette, and they are really important to the quality of the wine because they offer a lot of great drainage, but they retain heat. So when the sun bakes during the day, when it gets cool at night, those rocks hold the heat and keep the root system nice and warm. So
I see Wine Advocate gave it a 94.
yeah, this is consistently one of Parker's favorite Chateauneuf du Papes. There's a couple of Chateauneufs that are just crazy, $150 range that score higher than this, but consistently throughout the last 10 years or so, this has been one of Parker's personal favorites, and I don't think they've had less than a 90 in the last decade. So
yeah, $39.99 for a bottle. That makes it a great gift. It's definitely a good value because you're giving Dad something that's very good quality, something he can enjoy, something that speaks to a classy gift, but at a good value to you, something you can actually afford. It's not going to break the bank.
And a great package, beautiful presentation, and Chateauneuf du Papes typically have this crest embossed right onto the glass, so a very nice gift.
Yeah, and like I said, once again, the dynamics of the wine, the spice is tremendous. I mean, you get that certain jam off the nose, but then the spice just bam, 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 hits your, it's like that little atom kicking around in your mouth, like hitting your tongue, the top of your mouth, the back of your mouth. It's full body, but so easy drinking. And this one could go with anything from the salmon, prime rib. You could even. Where would you take this one, Michael?
Well, it's light enough in weight that you could drink it with a piece of salmon, especially salmon that was flavored intensely.
Some nice dill.
Yeah, there's a lot of herbal notes.
Yeah, that really comes. That comes from those stones that you spoke of. The
why do we have to use? Do we have to use that word terroir again? I think we might. I didn't use it in this one.
Did I use it?
What? I think here it really is true.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, the terroir is the many different attributes that give the wine its distinct mark on the land that it came from anything from soil and sun to the precipitation, the irrigation, the winemaker, pollution, all different aspects and factors that really tell you that this wine came from this land because of the way the grapes were grown in that type of soil, in those types of environments, in those types of conditions. So I think that we definitely have to use this one because I've traveled through the Rhone Valley, and it is a dynamic land. And, it's interesting, it all space, the Avignon River runs through it, a river runs through it, and it gives it a very interesting and specific type of minerality. All those types of rocks flow downhill to the river, and that's the bank on which that they grow the vines in, and it gives you a real distinct flavor to the wine. George, thoughts?
No, I'm just taking it all in, and the wine too.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous wine. And this is one, when I put this to my lips, it brings me back to the first days of drinking good red wines. I remember the first time, I think one of the best wines I ever had was a Sangiovese, and I had just gotten into the wine business. And, of course, I drank everything under the sun so that I could do tastings and talk about it and have experience and not just be talking out my butt, like I do.
Like us.
And I thought, wow, this is amazing. These types of flavors, they really just reignited all those thoughts in my brain again. This wine brought me back. And that's what good wine does. I love, we all love so many different beverages, wine, beer, spirits, and they all have their attributes, but wines can really just trigger this sense of well-being inside of you where it's just like, man, this is meant to be. Right?
I feel pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. It's a lot of flavor, and it's easy to drink.
It certainly is. Nobody's going to shy away from this one for a gift.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right, I'm thinking of the after party already.
Unbelievable. So we talked about a little bit about the, it says right here, it builds like a skyscraper in your mouth. I do feel it. Remember I was talking about the dynamics it does, it builds, it's big. And wonderful density and richness. And we talked a little bit about how this is a great gift and what you can pair it with. And these are the types of things that Dad's looking for. I think that it's going to make him feel special if you go out there and you find something like this. And this would go with a pretty. Now you guys know cigars, right? This would actually work, right?
I just got some in the mail today.
We could also add a cigar pairing for what we would want to do for something like this. I think it would be like a light, not a Corona, but what's the one that's in the middle? Not a Maduro, but
like a Robusto.
Something that's actually has some flavor to stand up to it. Yeah. I'm not a big cigar guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those are, you're naming off shapes and sizes,
right.
but most of what you're talking about, like if you're thinking of something dark, that's a Maduro.
Right, I was thinking something a little bit more in the medium. What's the medium light for cigar?
Like a Claro, it's clear,
okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it really depends on, and it's just like wines. One brand's mild cigars, another brand's strong cigars. So you really got to get to know your brands because the whole thing about cigars that they're trying to achieve is consistency, and I don't know if that is the same thing with wines. I'm under the impression that
all
different
harvests,
of wine taste differently. Like because I hear that it's like, this is the 2008 tastes like this. So every batch, if you will, has its own unique flavor to it. But with cigars, the cigar smokers want to have the same flavor that they bought the last time they bought a box of those Monte Cristo, Coronas, whatever.
I
it is.
think
So-
the theory is very much the same. They're both agricultural products. They both are grown in the ground, the root aspect of it, the grapes or the tobacco. And I would imagine that winemakers would like to make a consistent wine year after year after year. However, it's really up to Mother Nature how that wine turns out, how well the grapes produce, if it's a rainy season, mold, all kinds of conditions that they deal with on a daily basis, so on and so forth, pests. They would like to make a consistent product every year. Same thing with the tobacco people, and same thing with people that make beer, batch per batch, need to make it consistently. So I think that rings true throughout all the products. But overall, I would imagine that a good cigar and a good bottle of wine and something nice and light would go well with this.
I got just
nice
in time
spice.
for Father's Day. I ordered myself a Father's Day sampler, Monte Cristo sampler.
Oh, really?
'Cause I can't trust my daughter to. I have an Amazon wish list. She doesn't go anywhere near it. She has no
Okay.
idea.
You can in the wine. I think the winemakers are okay with seeing vintage variation and accepting what Mother Nature gives them and allowing each vintage to
Right.
be expressed on its own. But when we get to the cognac, then we'll be looking at people
Right.
who really are blending multiple vintages of cognac to try and maintain a real consistent style, the way the cigars manufacturers would like to do. So
And cigars,
a great point.
surprise is bad in cigars. And so I imagine in the spirit world as well.
Well, great point about the spirits, and the thing about the spirits is when with winemakers, it's the winemakers, and with the distillers, they distill the product, but it's really about the blender, and he's got that one position in the cellar to blend with cognac, especially, and Scotch too, but but mostly cognac to get that perfect cut, to get that perfect, a little bit of this and a little bit of that to create that product every time, and he's got that nose and that taste that really puts out that product year after year. He is
Right.
the most important person.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, moving right along, this is an unbelievable Chateauneuf du Pape. That was Chant Segal, and that one is available at all Total Wines, $39.99 for the 750, and it rated 94 in Advocate.
Wow.
And we can definitely pair it with a bunch of great stuff. So
I'm learning how to be a real wine suit on this
you're
show.
a real wine snud.
Well, I when we started this show, it's almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been
gonna
almost
get
2
close
years.
to 2 years. I knew nothing about. I knew one was red and one is white. And Merlot is a little bit bolder than the Cab. Is that right, by the way?
No, not necessarily.
I just knew that I liked
Depends
one
on
better
where you
than
get
the
it
other.
from.
But right, I guess it depends. Like cigars, it really depends on the brand.
feel free to come to one of our classes. Many of our stores have classrooms. We give wine classes.
That's what this is. That's what this show is. It's wine class.
And we are
we get Michael to come down here and do it for us personally.
We are a
Yeah.
fantastic cigar purveyor
great-
as well. So
Yeah.
for those of you who smoke cigars,
Well, that's
you
why I
probably
wanted to-
already know
all right.
about us. But
Well, I wanted to throw that in there, that you could get good cigars at Total Wine, and you might want to throw that in. A nice cigar would be even if you spent $8 to $10 on it, it would be an added little perk. You're still
Cheapskate.
under $50. Well, for a great gift for Dad, one cigar for $10 is.
well, if you want to buy
cigar.
the Fuente Opus X gift pack that we have in, you're more than welcome to come down and
what's
check
that gonna
out.
What's that gonna cost me?
I don't know. It's going to cost you a pretty penny.
And I
It's
get
$90
$10?
for 2 cigars. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. George, you think you're getting that this
No,
year?
I'm a Monte Cristo guy.
Okay. Moving
Not
right along.
exclusively, but just, I
Okay.
might as well not play around. Just go straight to that.
So, absolutely wonderful wine, and I do suggest you guys run right out and buy it. Coming right up here, we have Chateau Chevalier Cabernet Spring Mountain 2007. Talk to me about Spring Mountain, if you don't mind, and the vintage before we get into this wonderful cab from California.
Yep, absolutely. Napa Valley. So inside Napa Valley is where we are in one of the 16 different appellations in Napa. And we are on the west side of Route 29 with very high elevation in what is called the Spring Mountain appellation. Some really famous names up there, including Philip Tony and Barnett, Kane, among many, many others, and Spring Mountain Vineyards, who is the producer of this wine. And so this is going to be a dark, rich, fairly intense cab, but it's also from the 2007 vintage, which is arguably the best vintage in Napa since 1997. So
Yes.
we're looking at something quite special here.
Very much so.
And yet reasonably priced. A little history on Spring Mountain is that there was a guy, long before Spring Mountain Vineyards existed, a guy named Fortuné Chevalier, who came over from France, and he was a stained glass window artist by trade. And he decided that he was going to move to the United States and take a small team of stained glass artists and glass people with him and set up shop somewhere in Northern California. So he arrived here. Unfortunately, his timing wasn't very good for him because he got here in 1850, just after the gold rush. Oh. So all the people he brought with him to start this business all split and went to go pan for gold. He was left by himself.
Sounds pretty typical.
So he ended up starting a business in Sacramento and eventually became a spirit and wine importer. And then through that, built a beautiful chateau in Napa and a winery there. But unfortunately was not successful and was hit by the first round of phylloxera. Okay. This property passed through a couple of different folks' hands, and then in the 80s, the people that owned Farniente, Gil Nickel and his son, bought the property with great dreams, replanted it, did beautiful things to it, and unfortunately they picked the wrong rootstock, and they too were hit by disease. And decided to sell rather than stick it out. And so it was eventually picked up by Spring Mountain Vineyards. And so an ancient, beautiful piece of property in Napa Valley, replanted a third time. And so now we're looking at vineyards that are 15 to 20 years old, so just really coming into their own at this point, and run by Spring Mountain. So
that's certainly a great piece of history. Now, talk to me a little bit about the rootstock. That's an unfortunate turn of events. How would you go about finding something that would really work? How would they pick the right rootstock? I mean, people go to Europe for their rootstock and vice versa, maybe something from Chile or South America.
Well, generally, almost everybody at this point is picking American rootstock because it is so resistant to phylloxera, which is the real danger. But there's other kinds of diseases as well, and they picked a rootstock that they thought was resistant. But as it turned out, it was not resistant to the mutated phylloxera.
Wow.
And so not knowing that, and these are experts. I mean, these are the people that own Farniente and Nickel. They know what they're doing.
Roots.
But even with all that expertise, they still made a mistake. So you can't know everything, and bugs do mutate, viruses do mutate. You know, we have a flu season where we pick an injection to prevent it, and then the virus mutates, and the next thing you know, you got it even though you got a flu shot. So it happens in the vineyards too. But at this point, everything is going really well for Spring Mountain and Chateau Chevalier. So,
well, I'll tell you what, 2007 such a great year, such a great piece of land, so much history, and $24.99 for something from Napa, it's unheard of.
It is. It's not unheard of.
Well,
but it's unheard of for something that's mountain fruit. You can't buy anything from Spring Mountain that's a pure Napa cab at this price. So we're pretty proud that we carry this product.
And the 2007, it's like you said, it's a great vintage. Yeah. So as we pour, do you mind handing me the bottle, please, sir? Talk to me a little bit about the attributes of this wine and. We're doing a little crank open here.
Hate to have to get rid of that Chateauneuf Pop, but it needed to be done. So you'll see when you pour this. First of all, when I uncorked it and decanted it a couple of hours ago, it was throwing quite a bit of sediment. So it is a rich and powerful, full-bodied wine.
Certainly is.
Unfiltered. The cork was loaded with dark red crystals.
Yeah.
You can see even the texture of the wine in the glass. It's got, it's fairly opaque.
Totally. Crimson shows its age very nicely.
Yeah.
There's a nice pitch between the outer rim there and the halo, giving you some nice separation there of age. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow, what a nose.
Creamy legs that are just flowing down the side here.
Very fruity, like a blackberry, like a dark berry fragrance.
Rich, dark fruits that emanate from this one. See, this is where you get away from the difference between like Merlot and a good Cabernet. You don't so much
Wow.
Even though it's an American vintage and they're usually brighter, I get a lot of earthy.
Watch
European
that first
style
step; it's a
tones from
doozy.
this one.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's surprisingly bold.
A lot of earthy European tones from the nose on this one.
It's dense.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I want with the
rich.
cigar. This is what I want.
Rich, dry, dark fruits.
Yeah, a lot of dried berries here.
Yeah, some cassis in there right off the nose.
Very dry
Definitely
finish.
Big
Black,
piece of meat.
This would go great.
Yeah.
With
Aged.
a nice fat Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel there's some structure here that we didn't have in the first wine. There's some tannin present, the little slight drying effect, but it's not overwhelming. It's just beginning to sort of hit its stride. This wine is obviously going to go another 10 years without a problem, but you can just, the fluidity and sort of the natural beauty of the wine is so apparent you could only be drinking a cab from a great vintage when you get all these things coming together like that.
It's a word I want to throw out here. It might not be, but poignant, because it becomes sharp in my mouth. Like it's just completely directs all of its flavor towards one center to the inner part of my tongue when I drink it. It's very, very structured. There's like 3 sides to this wine as it comes into my mouth, and it's very, very structured, very typical of what you get from a good cab. The tannins are perfect because they're so evident, even clearly right now on the side of my mouth, but they're not overwhelming. I was joking when I was talking about puckering on the last one, but this one here, I mean, there's a really nice velvety, soft, smooth body, mouth feel, but it certainly falls into it's not full bodied. It's almost like a medium to full. It has a very nice fluidity, like you said. Yeah. It's very, very supple wine.
Yeah, yes, exactly. There's some suppleness, even though it's big and it's rich and it's got really powerful flavors. Lots of big, bold fruit just jumps right out at you. It's not a killer. It is eminently drinkable, and personally, I think this is absolutely delicious. If somebody threw this bottle in a brown bag blind tasting with $100 bottles of Cab, I would not be surprised if this finished, pretty high up. I've had a lot of $50 bottles that are not this good.
Yeah, it's interesting because the age has really done it quite well. It's definitely laid it into many layers of flavor that come through your mouth, and then it falls away a little bit in the finish to allow you to really taste the overall bouquet of it. And it's interesting because I do get all these nuances of black cherry and concentrated fruit, but also there is some spice in there. And there's no overwhelming aspect from the tannin to the overall flavor of the wine. So it really is very dynamic in the sense to where I taste all of the flavors this wine has to offer. And I feel it would be really good with food for that reason, because it would definitely not overpower foods but enhance their flavors as well.
Yeah, no, definitely this and a big piece of red meat would be fantastic.
I could just imagine the juices from the steak being washed away from this wine, and they're not, they definitely find resonance upon each other and finding a real nice, middle flavor.
And there's a little note of something minty or, something, licorice, there's a sweetness or a licorice note or something in there that just draws out all the beauty of the fruit from that vintage, because everything was in such beautiful condition that year. Nobody really had any problems. All you had to do was pick your fruit and not screw it up. And clearly they didn't screw it up. So,
no, not at all.
And there's not a lot of 07s left, and there's certainly not a lot of 07s in this price point at all.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
If you want to grab a nice bottle from a very good vintage in Napa Valley,
this is $24.99.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, when you come into the store, you said you have this laid out in the end caps. I mean, do people have to go and ask for the Chateau Chevalier Cabernet Spring Mountain 2007, or is it going to be something they'll see when they walk in?
It's different in different stores. The store that I work in, this particular Father's Day end cap is by our wine tasting table, but it may be in the front of other stores. But it's certainly set up in the Cabernet aisle. So if you're shopping for cabs and you walk down the aisle, you will see Chateau Chevalier. And of course, anybody in the store can help you find the wine. If you tell them you had heard about this cab on the By the Glass radio show, everybody will know what you're talking about.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Drop that name.
So what have you been up to, Michael? You've been traveling around. Last time I talked to you, you were going to come in, but you couldn't because you had a lot going on. And what's been going on like there?
We just opened another
how's
store.
Life at Total Wine? Yeah? Tell us about it.
Well, we have 94 stores now, so we just opened another one in Palm Desert, California. But we opened one in Kendall just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And that's where I was. I was out training that team.
I used to have to go really far I had to go to south.
What's the address?
Pinecrest.
Off the top of your head?
It is in the Town and Country Mall.
Oh, great!
I don't remember the exact address.
That's about 100 and I want to say 17th and
right.
Kendall.
That's correct.
88th Street.
Great.
So
That's
it's not.
correct.
Yeah, that's right. Near
They've
my
done
house.
a lot in that mall, in that development. There's a lot of really nice restaurants. There's a lot of activity. It's a pretty social happening spot right now. So. Everywhere there's a Total Wine, there's a social activity going on. But
yes.
a lot of restaurants. There's a Blue Martini there. There's a couple of very fine restaurants there
World
now.
of Beer.
So World of Beer is close by.
Yeah.
So, there's plenty to do out there. And it is a beautiful store. It seems like every time we build a new store, we've got one little tweak that we've figured out that's just a little bit better about it. So.
Well, all my beer geek friends are like, they even put it in a beer tasting bar, because you got
true.
wine tasting bars and all the rest of them. They put it in a beer tasting bar.
There you go.
Oh, that speaks volumes to what's going on in the world of beer right now because,
Yeah.
craft beer and import beer is just absolutely insane.
It is. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's a very growing field and people are very interested in it. And we're seeing people who are treating beer with the kind of respect that they only used to treat wine with.
Yes.
So very active community. There's a lot going on. You can check out our website. You can check us out on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. You can sign up for email and discount coupons. There's always lots of activities and events going on, tastings, and of course there was tons of grand opening activity. So
You can always go to buytheglassshow.com, and there's a link right to Total Wine through that as well. And what's interesting is I was up in West Palm Beach just a little while ago, and I always think to myself, they really need a Total Wine in downtown West Palm because there's nowhere to buy good. There's no liquor stores or anything in downtown like Clematis. It's amazing. That might be hopefully the next place you guys put one because I'm always up there and need to pop into a Total Wine to pick something up, and it's just not even one. There's one way up north, and there's one like in Boynton. So that's my
feel
suggestion.
I mean, you can never have enough Total Wines around.
You need one, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
why
like
I'm so
there's
excited
nowhere
there's
to
one by my
buy.
house.
Exactly. I got one by my house, which is cool. The one in Boca is right there, and it's like there's stuff you can only get there. So I just love it. So I can't say enough good things about it. But what I will say is we'll probably go to break real quick here, and we're having a wonderful time. It's our Father's Day show. We got Michael Braun from Total Wine, and he's bringing all these goodies for you to give to Pops because it's his day coming up Sunday. And you can't never have enough really great gift ideas. Total Wine is your place to turn for all such great gift ideas. And we're going to continue on with that and more when we come back on Buy the Glass Show on SoFloRadio.com.
SoFloRadio.com. Radio on steroids. Put a team of professional consultants behind your home or business computer with Key Information Solutions, providing solutions to your internet and computing needs while keeping you on the cutting edge of technology. Preventative maintenance and networking support, hardware and custom-built computers. Let Key Information Solutions be your personal tech staff for your home or office with affordable hourly, monthly, or annual rates to fit anyone's budget. Call Key Information Solutions now, 954-973-3374. That's 954-973-3374. Or visit keyinformation.com.
Free stuff for you just for listening to this station. Yo, we got your attention? Here's how it works. You click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for cool stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple. Free stuff just for doing what you already do. Radio Loyalty. Click the banner to join now.
Hi, this is George. Trying to get laid all day makes me hungry, so I go to Power Smoothie in Aventura and get the healthiest wraps and most delicious smoothies ever made. I mean, really, the smoothies are so insanely delicious, they're orgasmic. The staff is friendly there and cute. The food is healthy and real, not processed. This is not fast food, it's good food served fast. And they love me there. They even let me create my own smoothie, the Malted Jorge. Go in and ask for one. They're in the Promenade shops right off of US 1 in Aventura, or call them at 305-792-5338. You can also visit them online at powersmoothieaventura.com.
I am the voice of terrestrial radio. Internet radio will not succeed. You will continue listening to sports, right-wing talk, and mayonnaise FM. If you disobey, we will punish you with more right-wing talk, sports, and mayonnaise FM. We are corporate, ergo, we are never wrong. Listen and obey. Listen and obey. Shut it down, evil foe, for I am SoFloRadio.com, and I'm here to give back what people want to hear. A variety of entertainment, fresh music, comedy, and different points of view. I own you! Oh, your fart-radiating suit and tie don't frighten me, old chum. Behold the power of SoFloRadio.com. My balls are falling off.
You only had one, my evil friend. There. Now you'll have to squat to pee. SoFloRadio.com. Castrating terrestrial radio. One ball at a time.
And now we return you to By the Glass.
Hey everybody, welcome back to By the Glass, and it's our Father's Day show. We're having a wonderful time. We got Michael Braun in, market wine manager for Total Wine. He was kind enough to come down here and share some of his picks for Father's Day with you guys so that you can have a wonderful time and get Dad a great gift that he's really going to love and then he can share with everybody. I love the fact that when people come to my birthday parties or that type of thing, they bring a bottle. That way we can pop it open and everybody can have some right then and there. And if it's really good, well, then I'll stash it and take what the next guy gives me and pop that open. But either way, there's a good share going on, and I think people really like that. Wine. Talk to me about giving the gift of beverage, Michael. You're someone who works in a
well, for me,
area.
Wine is not just something to drink. Wine is, and I have an emotional attachment to wine. I have a great deal of respect for the people that grow grapes and care for the land. And when I have a great bottle of wine with my friends and good food, it's something I remember for the rest of my life. And I can still, I could pick up this bottle and smell Brunello when we pour it, and I'll think about other Brunellos that I've had and where I was and what was going on in my life. And so for me, there's an emotional connection both to the people that I know, that I'm sharing with, and the people that are making the wine. And, we've learned over the years that some of the best stewards of our land are people who grow grapes and make wine. They're treating the land with a great deal of respect. They're farming organically and biodynamically. And so not only are they taking care of Mother Earth, but they're making better products because of it. So I think there's an interconnection between enjoying a bottle of wine and what's going on around us. So
fantastic. That's exactly what I was thinking. You said it perfectly, but it's true. It really is so much more than just the gift itself. When you and people don't really. I think that in this day and age, people probably take wine for granted, at least fine wine, because there's so much of it. You walk into Total Wine, they have 3,000 wines, 8,000 wines, and people think, wow, there's just so much. It must be, but you don't realize that it's a lifetime of achievement to create what goes into that bottle. And it really is. It's a gift that means a lot, and it's something that can be shared. And it'll always bring you back to the first day when you discovered such a wonderful beverage. And a beverage that's done so much for beverage culture and done so much for the people that love beverages. I think wine really has spanned across the whole board of what people look to find enjoyment in beverage and bring it to class and bring it to a state to where people respect beverage as a whole because of wine. I think it's really done that for everybody that's involved in this wonderful world that we call beverage. So fantastic. We're moving right along to one of the best places in the world to drink wine. Michael had mentioned the Brunello di Montalcino. This is a Vasco Sassetti, and it is wonderful in the nature of it is a DOCG.
Oh, absolutely.
And it has to be in order to create a wine out of 100% Sangiovese, but different clones can be used?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's many, many clones of Sangiovese in Tuscany. There's 4 prominent clones, and one of them is known as the Brunello clone, also known as Sangioveto or Sangiovese Grosso. But these are mutated to adapt to the climate in the hill area around the town of Montalcino. And they produce, generally speaking, a pretty rich and full-bodied and full-flavored style of Sangiovese. And, of course, the rules of this DOC require that it be 100% Sangiovese, no mixing at all, and then there are minimum aging requirements for Brunello as well. But the good thing is, by the time the bottle is in the retail store, it's been aged quite a bit. And even though these are full-bodied wines, you can buy them and drink them. They do improve over time, but they are pretty much ready to go. And we are drinking one from the 2007 vintage, which is really a current release in the world of Brunello. And this one, I think, got 94 points from Robert Parker's magazine. And his Italian writer is Antonio Galloni. And this wine is made by a gentleman named Claudio Gori. Claudio is considered one of these brilliant enologists. he has developed, outside of all his winemaking duties for multiple properties, he's developed a research center with scientists and fellow enologists that have a laboratory and have vineyards, and they use them for research. So they'll do planting exercises where they'll do density comparisons. They'll do all kinds of scientific analysis of grapefruit, and their whole goal is to figure out what can they do to even elevate higher the world of Tuscan red wine, and especially in Brunello. So this is another really fine bottle of wine.
Beautiful. So they do genetic.
They do genetic testing. They do all kinds of mutating. They grow clones for purchasing. So it's a full-fledged facility. It's kind of like what UC Davis is doing, but for Tuscany.
Did you know that there was one up in upstate New York as well? A genetic testing center?
Genetic testing center?
Yeah, it's one
for
that's
people
been around
or for grapes?
Well, George is a clone.
Huh? That's right. Send in the clones, and here I am.
George is actually a pod. He grew out of the
pod
closet.
people.
But no, up in upstate New York, up in Geneva, is one of the main genetic testing centers for. They grew a lot of hybrids up there, and they took vinifera from Europe, and they mixed them with a lot of the local grapes from the region. Back in the day, Constantin Frank, Dr. Frank, and those types of things, they were involved in that, and it's interesting because when you go up there, it's a big region. You know, Southern has their wine schools up there as well, up on Canandaigua, and
right.
It's a very interesting aspect that people don't realize with New York. So, but it's a little bit cheaper than going out to California too, and it's a beautiful part of the world, especially around this time. But yeah, no, I've been there. It's very interesting and very important to do genetic research on grapes, because then we fall into the issues like we had before that you were talking about out in California and Napa,
right,
where there's disease and all types of things, and making wine easier to produce and beneficial to grow certain types of grapes as opposed to others is the type of research that needs to be done. So
right. saves a lot of money and a lot of heartache if you do it right the first time.
Absolutely. This wine is very interesting because of the color of it. Right. It's a very dark. It's funny too because it dictates the color to me. Dictated the aroma right off the bat. I got like dried, super old world, super dried fruits.
Right.
Almost musty in a good way, kind of closed off.
Yeah, I got that immediately,
right. But in a good way, kind of like fruits that have been like prunes that have been stuck in a jar in the basement for quite some time.
Yeah.
Well, really that's very typical of Brunello. This is a very traditional Brunello. The color is not that dark purple, inky
clear,
Cabernet color.
You can see right through it. It's really a lovely color.
It's rustic kind of looking.
I want to just be seen holding this. It's so pretty.
But there's tons of really interesting notes on the nose. So you get all that old world sort of earthy, barnyardy, mushroomy kind of flavor, truffly kind of flavor. But then there's also all this pretty sort of floral, aromatic,
very perfumey, almost.
Really
but
very
the way
perfumed.
the fruits come across, kind of like cherries and different types of berry, kind of red fruits that dance across your nose there with almost a perfume, kind of like a lady of the night walking by. No, I'm just kidding.
A little Dolce and Gabbana in the glass.
Yeah, exactly. No, but very interesting. And the interesting thing about Brunello or Tuscan or many Italian wines is they really do work well with foods. These are food wines tremendously. They come alive with food.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want to buy Dad a bottle of wine that's going to go with a beautiful pasta dish, if you like porcini mushrooms or tagliatelle with mushrooms, put that down on the table, or go to a really nice Italian restaurant and bring this bottle and pay the $15 corkage fee, because if you went to a restaurant, this bottle is going to be $100 for sure. So come to the store and buy it for $49, pay the corkage fee, and save yourself $40 or $50 or $60 depending on where you go, and you'll have a really great experience with this bottle of wine.
What do you think? Where do you see Italy going, especially with the IGTs and the Super Tuscans and everything? Do you feel that there is enough room to grow with the traditionals such as this, and then what's going forward in Italy? It is definitely the movement of nouveau winemaking in Europe.
Yeah, they were really at the cutting edge over the last decade with the Super Tuscans. It's been a while now. Not really sure what's next for them. The region of Bulgari is still expanding. We get new wines from that region every day. The blending of Cab Franc, Merlot, Syrah with Sangiovese still going on, and lots of beautiful new wines are being created. But there's also a movement to make sure that they don't lose their tradition. There's a lot of folks in and around Brunello who want to add up to 10% Cabernet. They're fighting to change the laws, and there's a counter movement saying,
their
no,
DOCs?
please do not. Yes,
Oh.
please do not change the rules. It's got to stay as 100% Sangiovese.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other people making wines that are blends. Let's keep our tradition and keep
I
it
kind
like
of agree
it is.
with
So-
them. And if you want to change something, you do the IGT, and you have to go around the workaround. You got to work the new ways. Well, it's interesting too. We've had some really wonderful winemakers from Uruguay and Argentina on, and they're doing the same thing with Malbecs. They're taking Malbec and they're blending it with other European vinifera and creating some unbelievable wines in that super Tuscan mold and tradition, so to speak. And they're creating really amazing new dynamic wines coming out of South America, which I'm sure you've tasted. But I think that the whole concept is really beautiful, and it definitely has its place. But then tradition has its place too.
It's kind of like Back to the Future in South America because,
Yeah.
and especially in Argentina where it's Malbec, Malbec's origins are in France.
Yeah.
And if you go back 250 years and you drank a Bordeaux, you were drinking almost all Malbec.
Yeah.
Then they had their problems and they pulled up almost all the Malbec that was left after most of it was destroyed anyway. And here we have Argentina who took over the reins on Malbec production, and now they're blending Malbec with Cab and Merlot and Cab Franc, and they're producing Bordeaux-like wines in Argentina. So we've kind of come full circle or done this whole Back to the Future thing in the New World. So you never
DeLorean
know
and
where
all?
it's going to go, but as long as it's good and we're enjoying it, why not?
And there's a great price down there too, so there's a good value for sure. Fantastic.
So again, another wine. Here's the third in our trio of red wines today, with very high scores, great winemakers, great tradition, a wonderful Father's Day gift, and I think all three in the lineup have been really beautiful wines, very different from each other, but all good wines and all reasonably priced.
Yeah, Vasco Sassetti Brunello de Montalcino 2007, available at Total Wine. Guys, if you want to get the full lineup, go to buytheglassshow.com, and then you can pull up the show page, and it's going to tell you exactly what we tasted, and then you hit on it right there, and it's going to take you right to the Total Wine website. It's just a wonderful tool for you to get out there and really do your Father's Day shopping right online. We're giving you these. I mean, you can go to Total Wine and get a free course, but this is something you can do right in your own home. By the Glass Show, coming to you week after week with wonderful beverage culture, knowledge, education, and it's so much fun to join us every Thursday at 6 on SoFlo Radio. So moving right along, we got some really great stuff coming up. I'm excited for this single malt. I love Speyside. They're my favorite scotches because I'm not a big, huge peat fan. It's not my thing. I love IPAs, but I'm not a huge hop fan. I'm not a huge peat fan. I like things to be a little maltier. I like a good balance. Talk to me about this one.
Right. Well, and that is exactly what Speyside is. You've got the wide range of styles depending on whether it's Highland, Lowland, Islay, Speyside. You've got the super peaty Lagavulin styles.
We've had Lafroig on the show.
Lafroig, right? Exactly.
Learn your face off.
Ardbeg.
Yes.
So you've got those styles that are really big, peaty, smoky styles, and then you've got the sort of lighter, brinier styles, along the coastline, and you've got this style, which is really probably the largest group of famous brands are Speyside. So you've got Glenlivet, you've got Glenfiddich, which are probably the two prominent brands. You've got Macallan. So a lot of the major producers are Speyside producers, and they tend to be really beautifully balanced. You've got some sort of sweetness there. You've got a little bit of the briny saltiness there, and you have just a hint of smoke, but everything comes together, and so you're not really overwhelmed with one particular flavor profile.
There seems to be a zero missing on this page because this is an 18-year-old Scotch for $39.99. Am I crazy?
You are crazy, but there's not a zero missing. So the only way really to get 18-year-old single malt scotches at this price is if you do it the way this one is done. And so this is done by the Ian MacLeod Distillery. And they find 18-year-old scotches and produce particular bottles and particular labels. So they're very well established. They've been there a really long time. It's a family-owned company, and they make some Scotch lines that they are the owners of Tamdhu, and they produce that line. Glengoyne is theirs as well, but then they make a bunch of these special labels one of which is the Shieldig that we're drinking. And so to find an 18-year-old Speyside single malt for $39 is virtually impossible.
And it won a gold in the San Francisco Spirits competition. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's the most important thing. It's
That's-
good. It's
yeah,
good.
It really is. That's where we talk about value, folks. These aren't just inexpensive gifts. These aren't just quality gifts, but there's an unbelievable value because the least expensive something is with the greater quality, that really is value. That's what it's all about. That's the definition of it. And why pay more for something if you don't have to? It doesn't mean the quality's less. I mean, these are amazing. Single malt Scotch, 18 years. For people at home that don't know, that means it's made out of one single malting. So let's say if you making a beer and you do one malt, one mashing, that means that's the single batch that you've made. From that single batch of malting, they've made one Scotch, and they've not blended it with other maltings of Scotches. That's the one batch that they made, and they distilled from it specifically. Then they aged it 18 years without blending, correct?
Right, and it's from one distillery.
Right.
So it doesn't move from place to place. It doesn't get blended in any way. It is a single production from a single distillery.
So this is as micro as it gets.
Now, since they're
Pretty
not
micro.
blending it, how difficult is it to get consistency with this kind of a product?
That's a good question. There are some variations from bottle to bottle or from release to release, but they're still pretty consistent because they're using malts from the same region every time, and they're using the same techniques every time, and they tend to use the same barrels every time. So,
Other than blending, is there something else, another technique that they can use to eliminate the variables?
just not really. It's the science because
Right.
when you're distilling, it's where you make the cut. It's where you make the stop. So the heads and the tails.
Yeah.
And that's really the science of it, and that's also the art of it. And so stopping the process just at the right time, I think, is where the consistency comes from.
And it really
knowing
is
what to
kind
do.
of, forgive my French, but a ballsy move to make a single malt because you're not blending, you're not moving from different barrels, you're not doing a Solera method, you're not doing a lot of the things that people do to create the finest production of many different batches. Basically, you're taking the best and you're shimmying it down to this is the root product that we have to work with, and then we're going to take that and we're going to cure it, rack it, and age it till it is a product that is something that we feel we're proud of. Doing that with just one single malting is very hard to do, and
So there's a lot less room for error.
absolutely there is. And this year, I got to tell you right off the bat, it's beautiful because I got tons of citrus and really nice herb. It almost tasted like a nice herbal citrus tea. It did not come across like your normal Scotch. That's why I love Speyside, because the malt profile really has a way to come out and you can taste what they've really intended. I feel that, and I was explaining it to my wife the other night. She's like, "Why on earth would you put that much peat in something?" And I said, "Well, if you've been drinking Scotch up in the northern part of
Don't you like
Scotland for
bacon?
50 years, you're going to want something that's going to be. It's kind of like hops. You want something that's going to balance that maltiness over time because you're
I
drinking
can see
so
that.
much.
It's controversial. I like the peat. I like it with or without.
But I think it's an acquired taste. But I think that Scotches like this have their place in the world too, because you really want to get what the malt's all about and the flavors that come off of it, the esters that are created from that. I feel, and once you've appreciated that, then you can layer on the peat. Right?
Yeah, I mean this is not that intensely heavy smoky style. This is a balanced fruity. There's a hint of sweetness in here. It's a classic Speyside, and at 18 years, it's really settled in. There's the barrel is there. The softness is there. The elegance of this
It's really
is
nice.
there.
Beautiful
and
color
again,
too.
I mean, put this in a brown bag lineup against 12, 18, 21 years and tell me where it finishes. I mean,
George,
You know.
how
I'd love
very
to put this in a
perceptive are
brown
you,
bag.
Michael? George always drinks his Scotch out of a brown bag,
While
especially when he's hanging out on the street corner.
while sitting on a milk crate under a tree
can you spare an 18-year-old, Scott?
with my boys. Let me ask you something, because this is like a fine whiskey. I've been drinking some fine whiskeys and scotches and things. You guys give me a hard time for not wanting to put water in my whiskey and
No,
drinking
not
it just,
water,
just like
but
this.
ice.
Or
Well,
ice
this
or-
I wouldn't do ice.
Ice or water. Everybody wants to put a squirt of water in my whiskey or in my scotch.
I
and
like
I don't
it-
want to. So why aren't we doing it now? And why
This
isn't
one I wouldn't. Bourbon, rye, I like it on the rocks.
I understand it
personally.
opens it up and everything, but
Cheap cognacs, VSs, I like them on the
I think you
rocks.
should
Like a
stop
cheap Hennessy VS, I'll put it on the rocks.
should
'Cause
stop persecuting me.
I'm not. I feel that it opens up the fruit a little bit and it brings the beverage around. But these need to be just straight. And
Don't
neat.
hate on the straight.
I don't know. You're
Right? I like it neat.
You're feeling a little paranoid over there.
Yeah,
I never
geez,
not
every, time
after you.
every time we do a whiskey show, I said, no water, no ice for me. Like, oh, come on, it opens it up. It's like, well, open yours up. I like mine closed and just.
This
just
is a
great, just
Father's Day
warm.
show, by the way, so keep your innuendos to a
That's
minimum,
right.
okay, buddy?
Right.
I like
But,
the bite. I like
You are
the,
entitled to appreciate
Thank
your
you. Thank
single
you very
malts
much.
any way that you would like.
Can I have that in writing? I want to laminate it. Like, people give me a hard time. It's like, I have it on a good authority.
Especially on Father's Day. You can have whatever you want on
No,
Father's Day.
this is what I want to dip a cigar in.
No, it really is
Yeah.
fancy. It's just fantastic. This is beautiful, and at $39.99, there's no beating this, folks. There is no beating this. This is an amazing bottle.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. It is the Shieldig Speyside single malt. Like I said, go to By the Glass Show and check it out on the webpage, so you'll be able to find out everything about it real quick. Let's move on to the cognac, folks, because we're unfortunately, you know how it is around here. Time goes by so fast when you're having fun with your friends and drinking booze.
Oh, that's beautiful. We've had this before, no?
I
Not
don't
this
know if
one.
we've had this one.
It's the bottle shape that threw you off, George.
Well, it looks really familiar. What is it? Turn it around.
That sounds
Love
nice.
that sound, right? That's a good sound.
This is a Chabanot XO cognac. Now the XO stands for not 10-year, but
Nope, extra old.
Extra
and
old.
The minimum
Over-
requirement,
minimum requirement
is
is
6 years.
6 years,
But
okay.
all good producers, these are blended cognacs of varying ages. Where
now
the
these are
minimum age is
Solera
6 year.
methods and blended cuts, correct?
Yes, these are various aged cognacs with a minimum of 6 years aging. And here we go back to what we talked about at the very beginning of the show about trying to maintain a particular kind of house style. So here the blending is really critical. If they release an XO, they want to be able to release an almost identical XO every year because there's no vintage designation on this. So the customer is entitled to think that if I bought a Chabanot XO a couple months ago, when I go back to the store, I should have the same taste that I had the first bottle around. And so here, the blender is really critical, and trying to keep that consistent house style is very challenging.
This is great for people that don't drink spirits. This is a great way to encounter spirits because you just drank a scotch that's made from malt of barley, and now you're drinking a cognac which is made from grapes, and you can understand the distillation of two very different agricultural products and how they smell and how they're apparent in the fruits that are evident and the real basis.
Now they
the difference
distill
between
wine to get cognac. Is that they make it
That's
into wine
correct.
first? Is that
That is correct. So a cognac must be from the Cognac region of France. It must be made from only 3 regulated grape varietals. It must be double distilled in copper pots.
Yes.
So it's very traditional. It's highly regulated.
gotta
this
say.
is delicious?
This is delicious.
Okay.
$44.99, unbelievable. This one, and that's why I love cognac. I like the fruits. I like fruit forward prunes. I like that really nutty almondy effect of it. I like a long, soft, supple beverage, a great spirit. This one, that's why it goes so well with cigars, because of the fact of the matter is it goes with all that. Tobacco can be sweet. A good fresh tobacco is very sweet, and it's very complementary. The spirit is very complimentary of a nice cigar. This is a wonderful, wonderful beverage. $44.99 Chabanot XO Cognac. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
a
and
bargain.
today's show has really been about value because we've had some very good products and very reasonably priced. And I keep saying it. Where are you going to go and find XO cognacs for $44? If you look at all the major brands, their XOs are $120 to $180 a bottle. So you're at a third or a fifth of the price. It's crazy, and it's absolutely delicious.
Unbelievable. Anybody who wants to call me Poppy and buy
For
me a
Father's
bottle
Day?
of this is more than welcome.
You got to go to Hialeah.
So anyway, I'd love to say thanks so much to everybody out there. Total Wine, of course, big special thanks to Michael Braun, resident wine and spirit expert for By
Does that
the
mean he
Glass
lives
Show.
at Total Wine?
No, but he comes
Got
in
a
and he takes care of
cot
business whenever it's
back?
time. And that's only you, George.
I was sleeping.
Thanks
in the
so much
studio
to Ed
today.
Roberts and everybody involved in today's show. And sorry Jason couldn't make it. And I want to say, when you're doing all this, when you're enjoying all these wonderful spirits and wines, please do so responsibly. Never drink and drive. Always enjoy. Must be 21. We preach responsibility on this show. We want you to come back next week and enjoy another By the Glass show. And have a fun and safe Father's Day. Sit home with your friends and drink a bottle of wine. Bust out the cots, and please don't drink and drive. So, Michael, so much thanks for you to being on the show. Can't say enough. I know you're a very busy man. Take out of your time to come down here and
Love
sit with
being
us.
here. Thanks for having me.
How do you like the
happy
new
to come back
digs?
again.
New studios. How do you like our view?
It's good.
Anna
It's
at
behind me. I
Chocolata.
don't know.
There's a waitress at Chocolata across the street. I just stand at the window and watch her. I get nothing done.
She knows now, George. Now she knows.
Stockity stock.
Fantastic. Everybody rush right out to Total Wine and enjoy all these wonderful, wonderful beverages. Please go out there. And there's a lot of great, really great values every day going on at Total Wine all the time. Michael, where can we find you if we want to say hi and pop into the store?
Come see me at the Plantation Store and the Fountain Shops at 801 South University Drive.
Fantastic. It's a great store, and there's a lot of really wonderful variety in that store. I love that store because it's kind of close to anywhere. You can get right off 595 University. It's a very, very... you can get there from out west, down south, the north. It's a wonderful store.
Centralized location.
It really is. It's fantastic. And we can't thank Total Wine enough, and Ed and Michael for coming in. So, you guys, I want you to have a really wonderful, safe holiday out there with your family, and please enjoy. And have a nice red wine to start, and then maybe finish off with a nice scotch or cognac, and decide what you like best, because this is the beverage world. This is By the Glass Show, a show about beverage culture, and beverage culture is what you like best. Discover for yourself. Find something new and innovative, and share it with your friends, and then always share the fact that you heard it on By the Glass Show. That's at bytheglassshow.com. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and everything in between. Go to our website. Check out next week's show. We got something fun and interesting coming for you every week.
We do?
At 6
I'm glad you said that because I was worried about
on
next week.
SoFlo Radio and bytheglassshow.com. Have a wonderful evening. Love you guys, and take care. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Good night.
SoFloRadio.com and SoFloTelevision.com.